Hey guys, it's your friend Kelly Dale with Off the Beaded Path. It's our Must Know Monday bead, it's not therapy session. I wanted to say bead therapy, but it is our bead school session for Monday, August the 24th. Wow, it is so hard to believe that we are coming up to the end of August. I hope you guys have learned some things here in the last couple of weeks during our back to bead school. And I hope that you'll learn something today as well. Hello to everyone join me. Hello, Lily Bowers and Ladina. Ladina, it's so good to see you on here. And Ladina, your unicorn was amazing. Turned out really good. Hey, Christine Davis. Hope you're doing well. Hello, hello, hello to everybody. So we're going to go ahead and jump in and get started today. I have a couple of fun things to let you know about. So we will just jump right in and get started. We're going to talk today about wire wrapping, basic wire wrapping. Now, if I'm 100% honest with you today, I have not been looking forward to this video because I don't know, I just don't love wire wrapping. I'm more of a bead weaver, but I do some wire wrapping when I need to. So that is what we're going to do today. So I'm going to flip the camera around. So if you get motion sickness, just turn your head for one moment. So I've got Sammy helping me out today. He's right over there. Going to help me out with comments and questions and links and all of that good stuff. Hello to everybody joining me. Hello, Miss Belinda. Okay, so again, it's Monday, August the 24th. We're doing some basic wire wrapping today. A couple of things that you need to know about is today through Friday, all the artistic wire, German wire, and aluminum wire on our website is 20% off with the coupon code WIRE. Also, next Sunday and Monday, or I guess I should say this coming Sunday and Monday, make any physical purchase on the website and get a free pattern for the large diamond ring. So I showed these last week. This is the original version that I did. You can see here it's got the little increases, and it's a pretty large diamond size, but it's good for any size finger. So there is this one, here's this version. It looks really different depending upon which, how you put your colors. Let's see, so there's those two, these two. So you're going to get, if you place a physical order on the website, you're going to get the pattern for this as well as access to a video that will show you step-by-step how to do this. I will have the pattern for sale as well. It's going to be a little bit more expensive though because it will come with that video. And then here's the last sample of this one. So lots of fun little rings there that you can do this coming weekend. Also, next week will be the final installment of Bead School. I thought it was this week. For some reason, I was thinking today was the last. We're going to be talking about illusion cord next week. The earrings that I had on in the video today are a project I started on April 13th in the bead therapy. And something else that's really awesome. Let me see if I can find a couple of my cabs here. Some of you have seen some of the beautiful cabochons that I've got from Nick's Creations on Etsy. This is his Etsy page here. And he has given me a coupon code that if any of you want to do some shopping with him for some cabochons, you can use NIX10, put that in the comment box, and he'll give you 10% off. So here are some of the ones that I got earlier in the spring. Okay, so here's some of these. These two are going to be earrings. I think this one's going to be a ring. I love the look on that one. And then a pendant. And then here's some other ones that I've gotten from him as well. They're really wonderfully priced because you can pick out the size that you want. You can pick out the shape that you want. So he's really, really great to order from. So again, Nick's Creations .etsy.com. Put that coupon code in the little box and you will get 10% off of your order. So I'm going to be working with probably This is the largest size oval, and this is a 24 millimeter round. I'm going to be working with these, trying to come up with some projects pretty soon. So we'll see what we can come up with for some fun things. Oh, goodness. Some of you are talking about the hurricanes. Yes. Oh, goodness. The hurricanes are terrible. Like, oh, I can't even believe we've got 2 back-to-back coming our way. Crazy. I'm hoping everybody is safe, especially in the fires in California. It's crazy. So, here's this. Okay, tools we need for today. You are going to need cutters. And again, I'm using my flat ones here. Okay, these are the chroma pliers. I've been using these for a few weeks in the videos, and you guys really seem to love them. I'm using my flat nose pliers, my chain nose pliers. Again, no grooves on the inside. You have grooves on the inside, it's going to mar your wire, and you don't want that. And finally, I'm going to be using my round nose pliers. Again, remember, they get bigger as you go back on the plier. So if you want smaller loops, you're going to use here to the front, and larger loops are to the back. So my mama is joining today. Hello, mama. Glad you can join us. So let's talk about wire. A majority of the wire that you're going to find in, a basic craft store is going to be just round wire, okay? It comes in lots of different gauges. This specific wire that I'm using here that you want to know about is a 20 gauge wire. So this is the thickness of my wire. I like to use 20 gauge to make wire wrapped rings. Love, love, love me some 20 gauge. So it's 20 gauge wire. This color is the rose gold. And then on this spool, there are 15 yards of wire. Now, something else you want to pay attention to, this wire is tarnish resistant wire. What this means is this wire has a copper core to it, but it has a clear coating on the outside that stops it from tarnishing as much. So that is why it's called tarnish resistant. So you can use round wire if you have it, and I'll do a project with some round wire here. But you also want to be aware of some of the other types of wires that you can use to do some wire wrapping. So one of the biggies that a lot of professional wire wrappers use is what's called a square wire. And when I say square wire, I literally mean that the wire is a square shape, okay? So it has 4 sides to it, and each side is a flat side. And you can kind of see the reflection there, the flat edges of that wire, okay? You also have a wire that comes, let me see, looking to see if I had another gauge here so you could see. Like this one is a 21 gauge. Again, it's tarnish resistant. There are 4 yards here on this spool of wire. The other wire you want to be concerned about is a wire called half round wire. And just like the square wire, when I say half round, it's got a flat bottom to it and a circular top. Okay, so this is a half round wire. Again, this is a 21 gauge wire. It is that tarnish resistant, which meaning it's not going to tarnish really easily. And then this roll has 4 yards on it. Now, this is just one specific brand called Wire Elements. There's lots of different others. Like this was an original one called Craftwise. Beadalon actually switched over to this Wire Elements. So it's Craftwise. So like this one is an 18 gauge, half round in that non-tarnish. And then, let's see. Yeah, and then here is an 18 gauge. This is a half round. This is from a bead store that I used to frequent years and years and years ago. And it's probably been 12 years. And you can see that this one actually, after about 12 years, has really started to get a yellow look to it compared to the more silver. But it's because this bag has been, it's been 12 years. So that is the biggest thing. But basically, we just want to do some simple wire wrapping today. I've got 2 others that I actually carry here in my store. I have the Beadalon brand. This is a 20 gauge half round. Okay, now this is silver plated. It's a you know, a good price. It's about the same price here. And then I also carry the 18 gauge round. Now this is a silver filled wire, but you know, again, you can use it for wire wrapping. Now that one's a good bit more expensive. It's $21.95 because it is the silver filled wire. So let's talk about just some basic things here. Sue DeLay says, can the wire that's yellowed be clean? Sue, yes, it can. You can use a cleaning cloth and you can go over it and clean it. And it should come back shiny and silver for you. So that's the good thing. You're basically gonna get that that coat off of it, so that where it's tarnished. And that's the same thing if it's silver filled or sterling silver. Once a wire that's silver plated, like it's just a plated wire, once it goes dark, there's no real way to kind of get it back. So if you have a stone, hello to everybody who's joining in. If you have a stone that has a hole in it that you want to wire wrap, this one is actually a purple, yeah, that word. That's what it is. It has a hole straight through it there. And so if you want to do some wire wrapping on something like this, it's super, super simple and easy. I'll show you just some real simple techniques today. Again, I am not a professional at this and I do not love wire wrapping. So the board I'm using today is the Ultimate Bead Board from the Bead Wrangler. You can find her on Etsy. The board is 18 inches wide, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut me a piece of wire that's about that 18 inches. And again, to do this, I'm just using that 20 gauge, just round wire in the rose gold. So I want to have some sort of design possibly here at the bottom. So I'm going to start out with a spiral. So I'm going to use the very, very tips of my plier, and I'm going to kind of start around, and I'm going to start spiraling this wire. Now this is kind of where you have to be easy with it and do a little bit at a time. And once I've got that little bit spiral started, I'm going to grab a hole with my flat nose pliers, and I'm just going to keep wrapping this wire. Now, if you're using a thicker gauge wire, you may want to use some silicone or nylon jaw pliers, work really well. But see, now that I've got it started, I can pretty much just take and wrap. Okay. And I'm just doing this with my fingers here, just making a fun little wrap. Getting a pretty good size. Okay, and then I'm going to come down, and I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to thread the rest of my wire through my large stone here. Now this is a 30 by 40 millimeter stone. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll that up so that now I've pressed it down against the stone. So this will be the bottom part of my stone. Joanne Davis, yes, the Bead Wrangler. She's on Etsy. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that right there. I'm going to leave it be. If I wanted to make the spiral bigger, I could. You know, you could do it smaller. If I was using thinner wire, I could probably get 2 pieces through here, but it was kind of hard getting this 20 gauge through here because you could put multiples of these on there. Again, we're just going to do some basics. So I'm actually going to take this wire and I'm going to bend it. It doesn't matter if I bend it to the left or to the right, but just right here above the hole, you can see I made a sharp bend. Rebecca, I will answer your question in just a few minutes. All right, so I have this here, and I'm going to use my round nose pliers, and just like we learned 2 weeks ago in our earring video, I'm going to come out and I'm going to make a a loop. Okay, so I'm making that turn. Now, you can see that because I bent the wire straight to one side, you can see that my loop is going to be facing frontwards. Well, remember, we don't want that because we actually want the loop to be this way. We don't want to actually see the loop because it's going to be hanging on a necklace. So a really, really easy fix is to just hold this bottom wire and grab a hold of the top and turn it. Okay, so it's just like this. Another really easy way to fix that is when you come up through the wire, just bend the wire backwards or frontwards. I just wanted you to see it's really easy to fix that loop if you've got the loop turned the wrong way. Okay, so now I'm going to put my wire back in to my pliers, and I'm going to use my fingers. I'm not actually going to use my pliers yet. Now I'm going to do a couple of wraps, like a wrapped loop. Okay. So I've got my loop. I have this little loop down here. You can see I probably have about a good 10, well, not 10 inches, but a pretty good amount of wire left. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take and I'm going to snip some of this wire. And then I'm just going to start another spiral. So I'm going to grab a hold here at the end. And I'm just going to start wrapping and looping here. And remember, I'm wanting to have the wires side by side, not on top of each other. Okay. So I'm just going to keep wrapping. Okay, whoops, definitely didn't want that. Okay, so you can see here that I've kind of made a funky little L shape. So to fix that, I'm just going to grab a hold with those chain nose pliers and fix what I just messed up. Okay, and then I'm going to just keep doing my little wraps here until I got enough that I can kind of hang on to and do it myself. Okay. And I'm just going to keep on. And now at this point, you can kind of decide what you want to do with this. If you want to leave it, you know, like down here, I could, or I could keep rolling. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to keep rolling this wire just a little bit here. Okay. Until I think this is what I want. So you can see if your bead has a hole straight through it, it's really easy to go ahead and do a really simple wire wrap on it. Now, you can see here, like if I wanted to, this could be my front side if, you know, I wanted to have it that way, or I could wear it this way. So it's completely up to you. Deborah Gibson says, is wire wrapping always a continuous flow with one wire, or can you add multiple wires to one main wire? Let's see, Deborah, you can absolutely add multiple wires, but that is way past my pay grade. So yes, you can absolutely do that. Denise says, how long did it take you for that to look so well? Mine always look wonky. So Denise, it does take practice. And basically, before I would do this, what I would do is I would take just a scrap piece of wire and I would just sit and practice. So I would just grab a hold here. And remember, you want to use the very, very tips of your plier, because that first little spiral, you want to be a smaller, you know, loop. Okay. But then it's just a matter of taking your time and getting that first spiral started. Now remember, once you get the spiral started, you can't really continue to hold it with your round pliers because you've got multiple pieces of wire here. And so if I keep trying to go with this, it messes it up. So that's why I have to either use my fingers or switch to these flat nose pliers. Remember, the flat nose doesn't have any kind of ridges on it, and I'm going to grab a hold here at the back and continue to wrap. And I'm not giving it a death grip, I'm just grabbing it enough to hold on to it. You can also put some painter's tape on there, and that'll help you. Louise just asked about my bead mat. Again, the bead mat is by the Bead Wrangler. You can find her on Etsy. I do not sell those. Okay. So you can see how I can just kind of keep going here if I wanted to. Now, I will show you too, and I can't remember who asked, Denise. Okay. So you can see here, Denise, I've got the spiral worked this way. Now, what I'm going to do is now I'm going to grab here on the other end and I'm going to work the spiral in the opposite way, almost like the S shape. And again, this is just practice, practice, practice. Y'all have heard me tell you I do not love to wire wrap, but I know just enough to get by. That is what I know, just enough to get by. Okay, so I'm going to keep wrapping here. And I'm going to try to get my wraps to be as close to the same size as possible. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this in, wrap this in. Okay, so you can see I have like this cool little S shape here. But now what you can do is you can also bend it onto each other or around to each other just like this, and you can actually make a fun little component if you wanted to, or you know, kind of whatever you want to. But this is just a really good way to practice those spirals and get better at those spirals. And again, this is just using some 20 gauge wire. But now I want to show you, you always want to be careful, like I said, when using your tools with specific types of wire, because this is aluminum wire. Aluminum is a really, really soft metal. It's super pliable and it's easy to work with, but I want to show you what happens if I grab a hold too hard with my pliers. Look what just happened there. It completely flattened that out. And the same thing will happen if, like, I grab a hold with the round nose pliers and I press it and I've got like a, you know, like a super firm grip on it. Look what just happened. It completely just desecrated my wire. So you always want to be careful with that anytime you're using your pliers to do wire work. So I am going to be showing you that same spiral here using this thicker wire. So again, you have to just be really careful on the tightness that you grab, because you can already see I've kind of indented a little bit right there. Now it's okay with aluminum wire because it's a little bit more forgiving in what you can do with it. You can see here it's so much more pliable to work with. Like, you can see how quickly that spiral got made up right there. Will 18 gauge bend as well as the 20 gauge? No, Wanda, it will not. 18 gauge is thicker. The lower the number, the thicker the wire. So this aluminum wire that I'm using, you can see here, is pretty thick. It's a 12 gauge. It's much, much thicker compared to the 20 gauge wire. So the lower the number, the thicker the wire when you are talking about wire. And you always, I get questions, you know, like, well, what kind of wire should I use to, you know, string this project? And people get to thinking that they can use like this wire to do their stringing projects. And you can see now, especially from last week, that it's two totally different types of things. So this is a 12 gauge versus the 20 gauge. And yes, you could absolutely, Kathy, you could take and put a bead inside of that shape as well. So that is kind of the differences you can see there in the gauges of wire. Now, I want to show you, we are really fortunate that we have family that has lots of creeks and all that kind of stuff. And the other week, we were up at the creek and we found this actually in the creek. I don't know how long it had been there or where it came from, but it's a beautiful piece of porcelain. Don't even know what it could be made of, or, you know, like I'm sure it was a plate or a mug or something, but it was there. So I thought, how cool would this be to show what to do if you want to learn how to do some basic wire wrapping on some, you know, shapes that aren't necessarily a round shape with a hole like this. So this is where that square wire and the round wire. Okay, Deborah, I'm confused about hardening wire. Why do we need to do it and when do we do it? Okay, and Deborah, I will answer that question again. I will answer that question after a while. Let me just keep kind of trucking here. So I'm going to be using that square wire. And again, I can use the 18 gauge square, or I can use this 21 gauge square. I personally like to use the 21 gauge. And I'm going to be using 3 pieces of this. Now, if I don't have this, I can most definitely use this round wire as well. Either will work. And so if I'm going to use the square wire, I want to kind of bend the wire out and lay it around my project first to see about how much wire I'm going to need to go around the project. You know, just loosely around it. So it looks like, let me get my ruler here. For me, it looks like I'm going to need about 6 inches of wire here to wire wrap this piece. Now, to straighten this back out, I can just take my fingers and I can do this, or if you have a pair of nylon jaw pliers, you can use those as well. If your kinks are so bad that you can't get them out, or your little spots are so bad, you can also just, you know, cut you a new piece of wire. It's completely up to you. But I'm just going to use about 6 inches of wire here, and I'm going to need 3 pieces that are 6 inches of wire. Patricia Morgan says, that's how I improved my spirals, made a whole bracelet with spiral wrapped beads. Absolutely. That is how you can do it. Absolutely. Okay. Now, you'll want these wires to be as straight as you can possibly get them. Okay. So I have 3 pieces. Again, I'm using that square wire, but if all you have is round wire, you can use the round wire for this too. Okay. It makes it a little bit harder when you're using the square or the round wire because it doesn't want to stay together as good. Okay. Now I'm going to put all 3 pieces here together. And then if I've got one that's a little bit longer or shorter, I'm just going to make all of them the same size. Let's see. Tanya says, is that a family ring you are wearing? It's beautiful. Thank you, Tanya. This was actually my grandmother's ring. And so I wear it all the time. All right, so I've got my 6 inches of wire here, and I'm going to use a marker, and I'm just going to mark here in the center of these wires. Okay. So I've just made a little mark right here in the center. Now this is where our half round wire is going to come into place. So I'm just going to get just a small piece of the wire, not too long at all, only about 3 to 4 inches. Okay, so just a little tiny piece. And let me see here if I can show you. Okay, so this is going to be kind of hard to see here, but this is the flat part here, and then the top is round. All right, so I'm going to put the flat part to my 3 pieces of wire. Now, if you have some painter's tape, I don't have any painter's tape right here, but if I had some painter's tape, I could actually take and I could tape these wires flat here and here. Now, this is going to leave me with some sticky residue, but that's okay. I'm just using this, you know, as an example. You would want to use some painter's tape just to keep these wires together. Okay. So now with the flat side, I'm going to lay this wire down on top of these, and I'm going to start wrapping. Now, you can see I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail here. And I'm going to bend the wire behind, and then I'm just going to come in with my flat pliers, and I'm going to kind of press it. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to make sure I kind of keep it here in the center. And now I'm going to take this wire, and I'm going to wrap it on top. We want each wrap to go right next to the wrap we just finished. And then again, I'm going to press that little wire. I'm going to wrap and press. Wrap and press. Okay. So you can see here I have 3 wraps. Now I'm going to take this little short wire and I'm going to wrap and press. Wrap and press. Wrap, press, and then I think I need to do one more. There we go. Okay, so I don't need this to be any bigger because this is going to be at the point. And if I make this little wrap any wider, it's going to be too wide for my point. Now, if I want to, I can also put it like this. Okay, so it's completely up to you as you work and decide how you want this, like where I want that flower to be. So I might actually do it like that. So I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to trim these wires. And then I'm going to make sure that those wires are flattened and tucked in, and I can't feel anything there against it, my finger. Okay. Okay. So you can see now how nice that wire looks against that flat wire. So at this point, we would need to take the tape off. And again, if I was using the painter's tape, this will come off really, really easy. And the painter's tape won't leave you with any sort of sticky residue. So now if I was going to do a circular component, let's say something like this. Okay, if I was going to use something like this, I could always take and then I could measure out, you know, a little bit on each side to put my wraps, okay? Because we want another wrap on each side here. So I could always take and I could come out, you know, about 1/2 of an inch, and I could put wraps here and here. Since I'm doing a shape, you know, like a different type shape, I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to hold, let me see. I think I am going to do it this way. So I'm going to hold this piece in place, and then I'm going to bend this up and up. Okay, so from where I'm holding it, I'm going to bend it up and up. So I'm actually going to need a wrap here and here. So they're not going to be symmetrical, but that's where I'm going to need them to be, here and here. So that way they will be in place so I can move up to the top. So again, all I have to do is take another little piece of my 1/2 round wire. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut 2 pieces. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do a wrap. Now, because this is already together, it's already been bent, I don't really have to worry too much about putting tape on it, because it should pretty well stay where I need it to. Okay, and I'm going to try to kind of press that first bend together there. Make sure I'm kind of centered on that mark that I made. But each time, you notice I'm pressing that wire to kind of hold it tight. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing here. Now, again, guys, like I said, I am not an expert at this. I do not love wire wrapping. This is just how I would wrap it if I was doing it. Okay. So I'm going to put just a couple more little wraps right here since I don't have too much wire left. And then again, I'm going to cut and cut. And then press down and make sure that those are down so that nobody is going to get their skin scratched there. So that is going to be perfect where it's at. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my wrap right here. Now, if you do your wraps and you think, oh my gosh, what did I just do? Like, that wrap looks terrible. You know, or your wraps are kind of far apart, you can grab a hold and press, and that will pull them together. Or, you know, if it just looks terrible, you think, oh my gosh, like, I wouldn't even wear this myself, then just simply cut your little half round wire or unwrap it and start over. The thing with wire wrapping, you can't stress too much about it, or you are going to you will be a hot mess just because you are going to be stressed to the max. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple wraps here, and you can see that my wire has stayed together, and that's why we're doing these little half round wire wraps, so that it will all stay together and look fabulous. But we're going to move that wire here in just a minute. So again, I'm cutting and cutting. Okay, so this is what we have so far, and you can see, again, it's not symmetrical because this busted piece of porcelain is not symmetrical. So I'm going to set it down, okay, just like this. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab this wire and I'm going to bend it here, and grab this wire and bend here. Okay. So far, this is what I have. Now, I'm going to go ahead, too, and I'm going to try and press these sides in just a little bit, because it is a little bit of a, a different shape. So I want my piece to kind of keep that shape. Now, what I'm going to do is just temporarily, I'm going to use a piece of just regular round wire. Now, you could use your tape for this too, but just temporarily, I'm going to grab a hold and I'm going to kind of just wrap a piece of wire up here just to hold this together. Again, you could use your painter's tape to hold it together if you wanted to. But now comes the fun part. This is where, we have done these wraps to hold this together. But now what we're going to do is I'm going to grab a hold of each of these little wires here, and I'm going to pull this wire to the front a little bit. So I've got my 3 wires. I'm going to get in between, okay, and see how I just kind of pulled this one out a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing back here. I'm going to try to wiggle in and grab a hold and pull this wire out a little bit. Now I can use my flat nose pliers once I kind of get it pulled out a little bit. But basically what I want to do is I want to start separating these wires so that they will start to lay to the front and hold my piece in place. Okay, and so see now that how I've kind of got this, now I'm just gonna press these wires up against the piece. So you can see here my middle wire stayed in place. This wire to the front is now kind of holding it in place, and I have a wire here on the back holding that in place. If I wanted to, I could take and I could pull it a little bit more on each side, so that now that's going to be held into place. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side now. So I'm going to grab a hold. There we go. And I'm going to grab a hold of this side and start to peel them apart here. Peeling apart the layers. Okay. And I'm just kind of pulling. And then once I get them pulled, again, I'm just going to press them down against my piece. So again, you'll see we have the piece here that's pretty much stayed to the middle. And if I wanted to, I could press it in a little bit. Use my flat nose pliers there to kind of press it in. I can do the same here, kind of press that wire in, so that this is what I have so far, kind of just holding it into place. Now the reason that we did not do anything with these yet is because we need to kind of pull this wrap up just a little. And now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to kind of grab a hold of this back wire here. Okay, and I'm going to kind of pull it. Now, I'm going to pull it a little bit further than I normally would. Okay, and same here. You can see how it's holding the back. And then I'm going to do this thing to the front here too. Now, you can also notice that I am not just super particular about, you know, making sure each of the wires is exactly, you know, straight and all of that, because I mean, this is a broken piece of pottery. I want it to be, don't want it to be, you know, exact. It's got a cool aesthetic to it, and I want to keep it that way. But then again, I don't want to cover up everything either. So it's a balance. It's a fine balance that you kind of have to play with. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to push that down and just kind of grab a hold here at the top, so that you can see now that I've got it all encased here. My back is encased, and now I'm ready to just finish out the top. So I'm just going to slide this wire off so that I still have a nice hold here at the top. So you can take a new piece of wire. So I can take some of my half round wire to do this, but I'm just going to use one of these wires, and I'm going to use this front wire right here. So let me pull it out here. There we go. And I'm going to start a wrap. Okay. And I'm just going to put a couple of wraps in here. And then I'm going to trim the wire. Okay, so it looks just like this now. And at this point, you kind of have to decide what you want to do with it. You can do spirals, you can do shapes, you know, kind of whatever you want to. So I'm going to kind of separate these wires a little bit so I can figure out, you know, what in the world I'm going to do. I think for now, with one of these, I'm going to grab a hold and I'm going to start making a spiral. Janine Brown, what brand wire am I using? I'm using the Wire Elements wire from the Beadsmith Company. Okay. And I actually think I'm going to leave it kind of sticking up like that. And then I think I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to start another wrap. I'm sure if my friend Annette Holbert is watching this, she is just cringing because she is the wire working expert. And she is probably just cringing right now. But, you know, we do what we got to do. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to leave those wraps there. And then I think I'm going to take another wire and maybe do a wrap to the front. And kind of whatever you want to do. It's your piece. You can kind of do what you want to do with it. Okay, so maybe I'll just flip that one over and come to the front just like that. And now, let's see. I'm going to, for now, I'm going to take one wire and figure out which both the wires are pretty centered. I think I chose the ones that were centered the best to leave here at the top. So what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to take both of these pieces of wire and I'm going to bend them forward. Okay. And then I'm going to trim them. And I'm going to make a loop. Okay, just like that. So that now I have a piece of just broken pottery encased and ready to be worn. I could always take, if I wanted this a little bit smaller, I could take and I could kind of bend these in a little bit more, could kind of do whatever I want to. But you can see, I mean, it's just a simple wire wrap. You know, it's not as simple as this, of course, but it's two different types of wire for two totally separate purposes. So that is why, you know, you see the round and the half round wire. All right, so you will see that, and I've had a couple of questions about this. Some people say, why do they need to harden the wire? All right, so this will go back to the, we'll go back to this 12 gauge wire here. This is a really good reason of why you always want to harden your wire. You want to harden your wire because at this point, I could take this and I can do this and it will just completely pull apart and, you know, I've ruined and wasted my time. The reason that you want to harden wire is so that it won't come apart as easy and it will actually make the wire harder depending upon the wire that you're using. So I'm not actually going to hammer this because it will be, well, I may try. I'll do it here so maybe it's not as loud. It depends on too the wire that you're using, because with aluminum wire, when you hammer it, it is going to flatten out the wire. So it's not going to be that pretty circular shape anymore. It's going to flatten it out. But when you hammer it, it's not going to pull apart as easy. So I can take, and I'm going to do this one here so you can see. Okay, so you see what happens. All right, it flattened out my wire, but I can't hardly pull this now. See, I can't hardly pull it open, and that is why you want to harden some wires that you use. One of the things that I do love about this aluminum wire, though, especially if you use a hammer that has a rounded tip on it, you can take it and you can texture it. Okay, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so now look at it flat, okay, completely flat, versus with that pretty texture to it. So you can really use your texture to your advantage, but I mean, even that, now that is stiff, whereas this I can still pull. This is, you know, hard to pull out. And that is why you always want to try to harden some of your wires. Even this, okay, so right now it's still pretty springy. Okay, but now look, this still pulls apart pretty easy. This one does not. It pulls apart a little bit, but nowhere near what this one pulls apart. Again, if you just flatten it, it's going to be flat. But if I wanted to, I could take and I could give it some texture. It doesn't texture as well as this would, because it's a different type of wire. And somebody just said, yeah, and you don't see color dings on it. No, the aluminum wire is a 12 gauge. So as long as you just don't sit and pound and pound and pound on it, you are going to get a pretty texture to it rather than the wire or the color being gone from your wire. Now, somebody said, how do you do it once it's on a stone? You can't. Most of your wire wrapping that you're going to do, that you're going to put like on a stone like this, there's really no need to harden it anyways. Because one way you could do it, if you just absolutely wanted to, is you could actually go ahead and while your bottom piece here, I could go ahead and I could hammer that. But I don't want to flatten this out. I like the rounded look of it. And you can see too, it messes up your spiral a little bit once you try to flatten or harden. This wire, if I was to take and do just a little tiny spiral here, yes, it would pull through. But like it is, it's pretty well going to stay in place and you're not going to have to worry about it. So that'll be really, really nice. And this, you don't have to harden. I mean, you have done so much wrapping and wire wrapping and all of that stuff. You know, you don't have to worry about it. Somebody just said, not knowing what I know now, I bought some 18 gauge wire a while back. Any suggestions for what I can do with starting a project with 18? Sure. Wanda, you can do 18 gauge wire here on these. You can use 18 gauge wire here. Bill just said, I use a rawhide hammer when I want to harden but not flatten the metal. So that's a really great suggestion, Bill. Really, really great suggestion. So instead of using a hammer like this, he uses a rawhide hammer so it doesn't flatten, but it strengthens. Any other tips that you could give us, Bill, while we are working on our wire wrapping? That would be wonderful if you could give some more tips and tricks. So, make a bangle style bracelet. Christmas ornament hooks are good with 18. Yes, 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 yes. Barbie says the more you maneuver or work with the wire, it kind of hardens itself. Yep. How can you flatten if you don't have the tools you have? Ooh. I honestly don't know what to tell you, Roxanne. What is the flattening thing that you hammered on? Okay, Sandra says you can use pliers to flatten the wire. This is an anvil that I'm using. We actually sell here in the store a bench block, which is a bigger box style. This is one of the very first anvils that I bought. You can find these sometimes at like a Harbor Freight or somewhere like that. But for doing small projects like this is what I use. So that way you'll be good to go. But like I said, Sandra says that you can use your pliers to flatten as well. So that's always a good suggestion as well. So let's see, somebody asked about how do you tell the difference or what's the difference in a soft, a half hard, and a hard wire. So I wanted to show you this really quickly. Again, I am not an expert in wire wrapping whatsoever. I found this at gempact.com, wire wrapping 101. And let's see. Wires are produced in a range of thicknesses, 0 to a 10 scale, 0 being dead soft and 10 being extra hard spring. What we refer to as hardness is completely independent of thickness. It depends on the annealing process, how quickly the wire is killed. Oh, Lord. I was reading a little people update on here. How quickly the wire is cooled during manufacturing process. So it's got your wire hardness scale here. Okay, soft temper wires are very flexible, being able to bend back and forth with little resistance, but have the drawback of easily losing shape. So that is your soft temper wire. Ideal uses for soft and dead soft wire include making detailed patterns or wrapping fragile drop shaped stones. So you can see here, like, do not use hard wire here. For most practical purposes, soft and dead soft temper wires of the same gauge are interchangeable. As the name suggests, half hard or hard wires need more force to bend the shape. This extra durability makes it optimal for use with wire wrap chains because the hard wire can withstand more wear and tear and is far less likely to come undone than soft wires. So I highly suggest that you definitely may want to check out this gempact.com because it looks like they have some really, really great information on the different types of wire, whether it's soft, dead soft, hard, half hard, whatever. So hopefully that if you go to that website, it will open up some things there for you so that you can understand. So let's look. So Bill asked about my pliers. Bill, these are called chroma pliers. I sell these on my website at offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. Huh? Yeah. So Sammy just popped the link up in the chat, but these are the chroma pliers, and I have been using these for a while. Janine Brown says you can use nylon pliers to strengthen and harden your wire. Awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Deborah Gibson says, you were brave putting those beads on the rail. Yes, I am. Especially when my little boy comes in and he shakes the rail. Oh, Lord help. So guys, like I said at the beginning of the video, I am not an expert at wire wrapping, and I've tried to answer questions that I could, but hopefully now you guys understand just some very, very, very simple techniques in wire wrapping, and especially how to use your square and your half round wires. Remember that all our wire is on sale this week on my website, offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com, and it's 20% off with the coupon code WIRE. Roxanne, when will you be getting more crimp pliers back in stock? It's my hope that we will have those this week. And let's see, Lori Weaver says, I have a piece of sea glass I want to wire wrap. It's about 1 inch long, but not flat. How would you suggest to wrap it and make it into a necklace? What type of wire, what gauge? Well, Lori, you could actually use this square and the half round that we did today. You could also always start out, it would be cool, you said it's about an inch tall. You could use an 18 gauge wire, Lori, you could use an 18 gauge wire and you could do a spiral at the bottom and actually sit your piece of sea glass down on it, because you can even kind of push down. Let's see if I can push it through a little bit. You could use, let me use my round nose pliers here. There we go. So you can almost make like a little spiral cage for your piece of sea glass to sit down on. So you could actually sit the sea glass, if it'll fit, you could sit it down in, and then you could even, bring up some wire around the back side of it to do a wrap on the top as well. So that would be a fun option, and that's the aluminum wire, or you could use an 18 gauge wire. That would be a really fun little piece to do as well. So that's a little fun thing. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I do hope you'll come back next week, which will be August 31st. And we're going to talk all about illusion cord. And that's about it. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great week. Go out and be somebody's light this week, because there are a lot of people whose light is very dim right now because of everything going on. Everybody can use a smile. Even if you have to lift your mask up a little bit to offer them that smile or kind word. So guys, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you later.